We're rolling. Luke is the inspiration first of all for the podcast. Luke, I reached out, didn't I, when we did one?
Yeah.
I reached out and I was like, I just invited myself on Luke's podcast, and I just tell him before we roll. And actually, like the reason that I did it is because it was just so easy. Like we can record these. Yours went out the next day. Tell me about like the story of getting yours off the ground.
The podcast, yeah. So the history of that was, so for part of my business and yourself and anyone really, like in the service industry, like we work in, the power of people wanting to work with you is hearing others and the social proof and the testimonials. And so for a long time,
because you talked about doing it for ages, didn't you?
Yeah. And so what I was doing was, I was doing a LinkedIn Live on LinkedIn, right? And so if client finish up, we jump on, hit live, not dissimilar format to this, and just talk about them, their experience, what we're working on, and I have that as an asset that I could share. Equally, it was helpful for the people who were coming on because they can share their experience, and it helps others in their networks. Anyway, so I was doing LinkedIn Lives for a long time, probably for the last 5-6 years, a good chunk of time, and then January 2025. Got a client to come on and do a LinkedIn Live, and he kept just saying, "Oh, looking forward to coming on the podcast, Luke. Can't wait to come on the podcast." And I was like, "What? It's not a podcast." And then did it, and I was like, "Hold up, why can't it be a podcast?" I've had lots of people say for a long time, "Oh, you should do a podcast because of the people you talk to and what you talk about. It'd be very helpful." And so I was like, "Why don't I just do what I've been doing?" Upload it onto Riverside or whatever, Spotify, all the streaming services, and call it a podcast. That's what I did.
I'm assuming they're not like real like surface level convos, because like we'll get into like what you do and obviously what you do that's a bit different as well. Like I'm assuming they're not just like talking about like workouts and that.
No, not at all. Well, I mean, given what I do, it's not really fitness. There's a fitness component to it if you want to be your best, but. Or want to feel and look and show up well, but that's a small part of it. And so, no, it's often the story is, very successful materially from a career perspective, doing pretty well, the gents that I typically work with, but that's come at a massive cost to their mental, physical and emotional well-being, and kind of they're getting the job done, but they're sacrificing themselves at the altar of that success, and usually, some version on burnout, unhealthy, unhappy, not present, and this feeling of like, I've got all the trappings of the life that I wanted, but I'm not happy within it. And so they see me and my content, and they're like, well, looks like Luke can help fix that. And so the conversations that we have in the podcast are about where they were, which is that place, and then the journey they've been on, and then where we are today. And of course, they've come through a coaching process. But I guess the work that I do with guys, like the stuff that we work on, yes, I've got a program, but it isn't particularly like, earth-shatteringly crazy or different. It's about taking them through a process to work on themselves. And a lot of people that I work with sort of feel like it's insurmountable because of everything they've got going on in life, and it's showing them that they haven't. So I think the podcast resonates on two levels for those kind of people, because it's like, well, it gives other people a license who watch it to go, oh, that's me, I'm struggling a bit, and that's okay, because you look at some of these people that come on and talk and go, bloody hell, he does what, and he works for who, and he does that for himself. He finds his stuff.
That's a big part of the program, right, as well.
Yeah. Well, I guess from a coaching perspective, like, I mean, and we worked together a while back now, Tim, and I came through some of your coaching. My main stuff was sort of one-to-one coaching and helping, not dissimilar to what I've just described. So working with men and women at the time. It's now more male focused in the the B2C part of my business, and there was a lot of one-to-one coaching, helping them work through this kind of stuff, and then I realised, and it was working with you as well, well, that was going very well. It was kind of on the back of COVID as well, so there was a lot of that, and so I think the whole online coaching space got a big boost from COVID, and so I was really busy booking loads of clients, and so I got to a point where I was kind of getting full with the one-to-one, and you can keep increasing your prices, but there's a point at which that almost gets ridiculous. But then also you're still selling your time for money, and if you want to work with more people and grow and scale your business, then you need to look at doing things differently. And so when we were working together, it was about taking what I've built and learned from the one-to-one perspective and sort of translating that into a group model, so you can ultimately work with more people and it's more scalable. And to get to your point, what you said about the kind of the guys that I work with and what we talk about and there being commonality, the powerful thing about the group I found massively is this recognizing, oh, it's not just me. Because I think a lot of people go through life and you see people on LinkedIn or social media or your peers or your colleagues at work, and everyone looks pretty composed and pretty switched on and they're all sorted. And so you think that all the shit that you're stressing about, worrying about and dealing with, be that family, work, whatever, unhealth, overwhelm, you assume you're unique in that, but you're not. Everyone is as messed up and as fucked up as each other. And so putting yourself in a process where you see that front and centre is actually really powerful, because one of the guy's still in the program now, and he did the podcast a couple of weeks back, and he'd seen a post of one of his, I think an old boss or a colleague or an old client or something, and he was like talking openly about where he'd been and what he was struggling with. This guy runs a big sort of logistics business, and he was like, I thought Andy had it all 100% sorted, and he saw that post. He was like, and I'm struggling, so he's like, right, I need to speak to Luke. We had the chat. And I explained about the group bit, and he was a bit like, "Oh, I don't know about that." And like really quite like, "No, it's not for me." This, but then because he'd seen his friend Andy's post, he wasn't in a good way. He's like, "I need to do something." Like, fine, whatever. I don't like the idea of a group, but I'll do it. The first call we had on the group, like, wait, to him was like, "Right, how's your week gone?" The first week, and he just went, "Oh, it's not just me." Like the relief. And he said it on the podcast, he was like, to be honest, mate, if I just got that out of the process, that was massive. And so I think that's the powerful thing. And because of the types of gents, you know, my main program are typically quite successful, relatively senior, C-suite partners, directors.
A load of people. Like, I think this links both what we started off with the podcast, but also actually what, you know, me and you talked about what goes on in these programs, especially when you're good, when you know how to draw that out of people, and when you create a culture where that's okay. Like, it's not exactly, I'm assuming some of these guys, number one, they probably don't have anyone else around them that they can actually open up to, because if you're the boss, like I remember Ryan Blackburn. You remember Ryan?
Yep.
Yeah, like near you. And part of his marketing was like, he talked to this enough. He's a really good marketer, by the way. And he was like, you know, you don't have anyone else around you that you can kind of let off steam. Like, you can't it's not show weakness, but, you know, if you're like the boss of the company, you're not going to go to your team and I'm struggling a bit, because you probably wouldn't want to because of leadership. And hopefully you're not spilling your guts to your missus about how much you're, you know, there's sharing, but there's oversharing.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't think men are used to it.
No. And
especially those guys.
No, they're not. And something I hear quite a bit is that there's two parts. One is that I haven't got anyone else to be accountable to. So like, it's like there's no one to hold me to account just generally to whatever. But also it's a bit lonely at the top because there's not a lot of other people I can talk to. There's a gent in the program right now, and he runs a successful business with his business partner. Saw the content, had the chat, decided to sign up, and he's doing great, and he's still in the program. But he was like, me and my business partner have never talked. I told him I wanted to do this because he's going to pay for it by the business. And he was like, oh, mate, I've been struggling with this, and I've just started seeing a therapist, and this is helping me. And they hadn't had that conversation. And now they have, and they've seen that. Like, that's emboldened both of them to be much better and share more with each other. But had this client of mine not gone through this process and done that, he wouldn't have even had that conversation. It's not because he doesn't care about his business partner, but you sort of hold it in and just think, oh, yeah, they're all fine. But in doing that, neither of them are any weaker. It's actually more powerful because it can help them run and lead the business better, right?
When did we, like, if we take this back to the beginning, like, when did we meet? Like, what was things like 5, 7, 8 years ago? Like, a bit of your story on like what you did, you know, in work and that.
Yeah, so it depends how far back you want to go.
Were you marketing, right?
Yeah. So prior to working with you and prior to even doing the coaching stuff, so I'll give you my my history, my CV.
Brought up in where was it?
In Don, yeah. So went brought up in sunny Doncaster, went to university. Although my dad was a doctor, like actually my immediate family, like no one else had been to uni. I think I was the first person in my family to go to uni. And so I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I thought I want to go to Leeds because I like Leeds, and I reckon I can get 3 Bs for A levels. And so did an eeny, meeny, miny, mo on a prospectus. Philosophy, that sounds all right. I'll do that. That was my thought process in terms of how I... Say again?
I didn't know you did that as an undergrad.
Yeah. So I did philosophy, and at the time I thought it was a load of bollocks, to be honest. Funnily enough, it's come full circle and sort of underpins everything I do. So maybe some of it went in, but that was my thought process. Did okay at uni, loved it. I met my wife, Kate, at university. Made amazing friends. Actually, second year I found really difficult. I was working a telesales job to help pay for myself. It was like 25, 30 hours a week. At the same time I was doing uni. And actually that was pretty intense and stressful. And I'm not going to make out like I was some driven saint. I was getting battered all the time as well because I was 19, right? So kind of very much burning the candle at both ends. And I just found it really hard. And I was like yay close to probably dropping out in second year. And I had a chat with my mum. And I was like, I might drop out. So what's the biggest thing? I said, I can't do this job and try and do the uni bit. It's a bit too much. And so my dad was rubbish. Different conversation, but he didn't support us or anything. And so she was like, look, we'll make it work so you don't have to work, right? And so the third year, she did that. I also had a chat with the people at the call centre about time I noticed in, and I think they must get some of their metrics or their KPIs must be on retention, because the head guy went to, why have you handed your notice in, Luke? You want to have best salespeople? I was like, yeah, I just can't do this at the time of uni. He's like, no. Well, how about we pay you, pro rata over the year, and you just work in holidays? I was like, oh, that's perfect. So it worked out really well. So third year went really well. Got a Desmond, got a 2-2, finished uni, and that was it. Did a ski season in Canada with a mate. Came back to London because all my mates from Leeds were in London, as was Kate, my at the time girlfriend, and that was 2006. So just before the first market crash, 2008. And so it felt like if you had a bit of experience on your CV, and I'd always worked from being young, and I had a bit of sales stuff and a degree, it was like there's jobs everywhere. And so I got a job selling ad space for a commercial property magazine. That sort of evolved into a role at JC&Co, selling outdoor airport space. In that time period, got myself in a bit of debt. Bought a set of decks, which I couldn't really afford, on a credit card, which was very sensible. And so I said to Mum, Mum, can I come back home, live rent-free for a bit and just pay off this trip? Yeah, of course you can. So I came back, went back to Donny for like 7 months, got a random job working for like the standard setting body.
After living in London?
Yeah. Went back for like a few months. The job was like selling... I was working at it's called Habit. It's like the standard setting body for the hair and beauty industry. Really random, like a marketing exec role. Then sorted my money out. I was like, right, I want to move back to London. There's no way I was staying in Donny for very long. Got a job in a kind of a conference marketing sort of role for a private equity publishing company. That then sort of evolved. It's probably the longest place I've stayed anywhere in a sort of salary career. Ended up as a sort of marketing manager, managing a big web tech build of theirs.
So we had an agency. That must have been reasonably well paid.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't
like, and not just
stable,
like good,
stable, steady cash. It wasn't
like a potential future.
It wasn't silly money, but decent cash. Not too crazy from a stress perspective. And then got a bit bored there. The agency that we were working with at the time actually ended up like saying, "Do you want to come and work for us?" And then there was a couple of times that we went, and then the place was reoffered, and I stayed. And then someone at that agency's sister was running a smaller agency. Do you want to come and head up our little digital part of our business? And I was like, yeah, of course. So I went and did that at that agency. That went pretty well. Worked for another agency. That went okay. And now, this is fast forwarding now. Fast forward to sort of 2015. I was working at a large independent agency called, it doesn't matter what they're called. And Kate was pregnant with Nino at the time. And client was really, really difficult. I was going to use a different word. Like not a nice client. Really stressful, crazy hours. So good money, but like really, really full on high stress. Typical agency model: sell the dream, absolutely no resource, and just work your bollocks off basically. And so wasn't happy, was stressed, and just not really enjoying life or work. In November, Kate had the 20-week scan, and we found out Nino was going to be born with a condition called transposition of the great arteries, which means without open heart surgery to correct it, you die. So ultimately, your pulmonary artery and your aorta are switched the wrong way around. So what that means is when you take a breath, your blood doesn't oxygenate. And so they've only been able to correct it in the last 15 or so years, something like that, 15, 20 years. And so typically babies with that, they'd be born, go blue and die. So like it's a really intense, like life, very much life limiting condition. So found out this at the 20-week scan, and I was like, fuck, like we don't know what's going to happen. It's not a great prognosis, and the surgery isn't particularly efficacious in a lot of cases. And so we're like, this is really shit and stressful. And I was like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't want to be this fucking stressed out guy who's working silly hours and just not as happy and as I would like to be. So at the time, I said to Kate, I was like, right, I'm just going to quit my job and retrain to be a PT. And it's something I've sort of wanted to do for ages.
How
and
did
I've
she
never
react
done it.
to that?
She was like, well done. Yeah, she was like, go for it. So I was like, Kate's always been quite supportive.
That's a blessing, isn't it? Because I think a lot of people be like, what the fuck are you doing, Luke? No.
Well, exactly. And like Kate had a good job as well, right? So from a financial perspective at the time, like, I mean, would I do it now with all this? Probably not, right? Because I've got a whole other set of circumstances. But at the time, like, Kate had a good job. Where we lived, we could afford, and so it was a risk we could take. And my logic was, look, if August pear-shaped, just get another job doing what I'm doing. Like, I mean, it's not. I can clearly do that, right? So that was November 2015. Did like typical PT qualification, the level 3 jobby. It was at YMCA in central London, which was fine. Did that, passed that. Nina was born in February 2016, so he just turned 10 now. And so when he was born, we were born at the Chelsea Westminster, went straight to the Royal Brompton, and then they weren't sure whether they wanted to do the op immediately or not. So they found some complications with his heart where it's wired, which is not what you want to hear. So they actually wanted to get a bit bigger. So they did a procedure where it's called a balloon septostomy, which sounds really extreme, but they intentionally tear a hole in your heart. And what that means is that when you're really, really small, the non-oxygenating blood can oxygenate because the blood just mixes in your heart. Now, it's not a solution that will work long term, but in an acutely small and a very tiny person, it gives you just enough oxygen so you can grow and get a bit bigger. So he went home with us for 9 weeks, and then it would not long there. At 9 weeks, he had 11 hours open heart surgery. So I've actually seen his heart. So when they do the procedure, once it came round, leave the chest open so you can actually see the heart beating in case they need to get into his chest. It's really fucking intense, as you can imagine. And so that went amazingly well. So they weren't sure how it was going to go. We got given a real bleak prognosis a couple of weeks prior to the op by the surgeon because they tell you, we've seen these complications. We don't know how it's going to go. We're not sure this is going to work, but we're going to do our best, basically. And we're like, shit. And it just went literally better than anyone expected. So that even like about a week in, all the machines and stuff started to come out a little bit. And this like really sort of like very direct Russian consultant who I imagine was not religious, anything else. And she was like, he's a miracle. Like, fucking hell. If that's what you're saying, you must have been worried. But luckily, yeah, it just went amazingly well. And so now he's a little, 10-year-old tank, loves his rugby and jiu-jitsu.
I remember having a conversation with him and I think he was about 6 and I'm like, this is like a 15-year-old talking to me.
Yeah, he's got a better vocabulary than me.
I mean, we're talking about like the restaurants that he likes to go to, and I'm like, I was like, I think I was lucky if I got like a jacket potato, like cheese.
He's done well. He's greedy like me as well. So, so that was amazing, right? So it went amazingly well. Of course, incredibly stressful time, but and really that was like the catalyst for me. Ultimately changing to do what I do now. And so alongside that, I started to grow like just an in-person PT business. And I never did like the commercial gym thing. So where I started was like a little private Olympic weightlifting gym. And I'd done a little bit of fun coach. Yeah. So I built up my own clients from there. So they're all my own clients, paid a little bit of rent to the guy who owned the place. And in fact, actually, if I ran a couple of the classes, I was able to do it rent-free. So it was just a really good engagement, right? And so I built up a decent, little in-person PT business. Quickly realising people you're talking to want more than that. They want to lose a little bit of weight and want to look at the nutrition. So I did an MNU nutrition qualification thing. And then, again, the people you talk to, the conversation you start having, you realise that this is almost like therapy, the conversation you have and what you talk about, and there's more going on than just the weight loss or fitness.
At the beginning, did you recognise that, or was it just looking back?
Yeah, well, even like when you just PT someone in a gym, like in between sets, the chats you're having, like some of the stuff people are talking to you about, you're like, and I like to think I'm pretty personable and I'm quite good at chatting anyway, and just recognise that. And I wasn't consciously going, right, I'm going to turn this into a business at the time. I just recognised that people obviously want to talk about more than whatever it is that's going on. And I think for some people, the PT session was as much that than it was the reps and the whatever else you were doing, right? Yes, you're helping them get fitter, but also it's the having a space where they can talk openly about stuff to someone that isn't anyone they really know other than the PT, right? And so that kind of grew and evolved. And at the time, to keep things ticking over, because like when you first start out, it wasn't super busy. So I still did a bit of like day rate consulting of my own job, and so I had people that I knew and like message. Oh, Luke, you still doing any of that work?
It's a good plan, isn't it?
Yeah, so I could do a little bit of that on the side, and so that worked quite well. And it got to a point probably a couple of years in where I was doing enough PT stuff, and I'd already migrated to doing quite a bit online, more like the online fitness PT stuff, not in the guys that I do now. And got to a point where there was a tipping point. I was like, right, well, I don't need to do any more of the consulting work, and I can just do that. And then the online side of things, it was probably only about 6 months, maybe a year after that, I was like, actually, I can just go to being full online and not doing the...
Did you enjoy the online at the beginning?
Yeah. So I got to a point where I got a bit sick of doing the gym stuff. I was just a bit like... And because we had Nino, he was little... I was just a bit knackered and tired, and I was like, I quite liked not having to go to a gym. I got to a point where I was sick of doing that, basically. And I know some people love that. That's the thing they like the most. But I was quite happy to pivot into doing the online bit, and I did like a couple of smaller like online fitness mentorships as to how you structure it. And so the main model I had initially, it was like a couple of £100 a month. Build out like a nutrition planning structure for somebody, like a training planning structure using something like using Trainerize actually, and then like a weekly check-in process. So there'll be like a set of questions that they have to answer, and then I would record a Loom video answering those, and then send them that, and we'd have a back and forward. And I got up to like probably 20, 30, quite a few clients actually. And so
because that was good. Well, I'd find that quite difficult, because I don't know if it was you getting the teeth into the marketing, but I'd find that quite. Obviously, I'm biased, but I would find that quite difficult. Like, did you ever actually like interact with your clients?
Yeah. Well, there's quite a lot. So they would give you like quite a long like WhatsApp.
But you wouldn't have like calls back and forth. But more you just record.
No. Yeah, there'd be an initial call if someone's interested in working with you, like what we would call a sales call now, right? Where you'd have a chat and explain the process, and if they want to do it, sign up. Bang. Then after that'd be it, really. But I think a lot of people quite like it because it also. As a model, actually,
as well, right? Because I remember looking at you've got some good results as well, right?
Yeah. You really do. Like, I think
personal training.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that model, I think it's a pretty good model, and it's been stress tested by people. I think as long as you, it's like one-way coaching, right? So, and there is a dialogue, but like in a way, sometimes it makes it easier because you can say all your pieces and they can watch that and digest that, and so. You can't get to the level of depth that you do on a call like this where there's a back and forward, but you can do quite a lot and quite well. And I had clients that had stayed with me for years and years in that same process, like just they really enjoyed that. And I think it's the weekly check-in and accountability helps pull people around. And there's an element that I still use of that sort of concept in what I do now. It's not like a check-in per se, but it's a stop and a self-reflection, because I think that's the bit that a lot of people don't have. And I think if you've got that regular self-reflection on whatever it is, a mechanism to check in on yourself, like that's really powerful. Now, this was very much in a fitness kind of focused bit, but like any wins for the week, what you're struggling with, and often it'd be fitness team because that's what we're working on. But usually you'd have other things coming off the back of it, and so that was the main. I was having an
interesting conversation with someone about whether the person at the other end of that model could be AI, and I was like,
"Oh yeah,
I don't know if they could though, because would you feel accountable to a machine in the way that you would feel accountable to a person, even if you don't speak to the person? Like, even if like you never, you just, there is a loop that exists, but I was obviously a bit of a...
Well, I think the difference is you have like the Loom screen share, so you've got my little face in the corner.
That could be AI'd at some point.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah.
Like, would someone just lose the essence of accountability? And my contention is that they would.
Yeah, I think there is definitely an element of knowing that there's another human there thinking about and talking about you and what you're doing. I think that's really, really powerful, right? And I think that has legs. And whatever the mechanism for that, if you know there's someone else there looking at what you're doing, got your back, thinking about you, and then giving you feedback, I think that is powerful, right? And so actually, as a model to work, I think I genuinely, even now it works really well. Like if someone was going to try that, I think like it's not a bad way to do things. It depends on what the outcomes you want and what you want to work on. But from a fitness perspective, I think like it's quite an easy way to run things through that, and I got some great results and people liked it. I also recognise there were definitely times where, had you been able to have a conversation and really dig into things, you would have had more impact, right? For sure.
Do you think, as we're on the AI quickly, do you think, is that impacting your business, do you think?
Not yet. I think it's helping me run my business better from an efficiency perspective, like the marketing, back office, this podcast stuff. Like, like you saw, if you do a recording and you're pretty nifty with it, you can probably spin up and get a podcast released within a few hours, right? Now, I wasn't doing that prior to having the AI tools that we've got. So, and even the last year they've got better. Like, I think what would take me, I don't know, a couple of hours of doing bits to get it ready and released now probably would have been 1 or 2 days and much longer. So, like from a business efficiency perspective, AI, as in, has AI as a threat to my business? Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah.
Do you ever get objections or anything like that when people sort of?
Not AI ain't one. No, it might be like cost or other things, but it's not. It's definitely not that. There hasn't been. Oh, I could just go and get an app versus you. That
objections that affected things, or have you? I think I know the answer to this, but do you think that's affected you?
Is what? Sorry,
the weight objections.
No, not at all. And actually, for me, I've got loads of clients that use them, and I'm massively pro them. I think like for some people, they're really it's like just another tool. What I would say to, because I had one guy signed up and he was, oh, I'm really sorry, I was just going to tell you, you probably won't hear this, but I'm on the injections. I was like, good. He went, what? I was like, yeah, it's good, mate. If you struggle for ages, it's just going to help you do all the stuff we need to do. Now, just like anything else, if you're taking any of the GLPs, but you're not changing any of your habits and behaviours underneath that, it'll make you thinner, but nothing else is still there. And all the bad press a lot of these things get, like all this stuff, is that it's because I think we'll go on a GLP, don't change any habits or behaviours, don't look at what they're eating, what they're doing, the relationship with food and all the other things that come with that. Well, you will be thinner and not be eating as much, but you're not healthy. And so if you come off them, you haven't addressed the fundamental issues that have caused you to be where you've been in the first place. And so that's why you gain the weight again. If we do the behaviour change alongside using that, it's just a really helpful tool to empower what you do. And that's how I see it. So no, it's quite the opposite. There's quite a few guys in my programme that are on them.
I overheard a conversation. Someone said that they had constant food noise. And I've obviously heard the term. I think it was a female that was saying this. But the way she described it is like, my assumption of what she was saying was like inner dialogue. Yeah. I have business noise. Like that's in my mind a lot. Yeah. Like a lot part of the day. Like I know that you're very good at switching it off. But like that for a bit of the day, it's like that's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about work when I'm walking along. I'm thinking about clients and business and all that sort of stuff. So I can kind of imagine what if I replace that with just thinking about food. Sometimes like I'm like, oh, I wish I could just stop fucking thinking about work and business. Like it would be good sometimes. So if that's what this person was thinking about, and she goes when she took the GLPs, it just stopped. It was like, and I imagine like, if I'm meditating. That's the point of meditating is that you're present and you haven't got an inner dialogue, or you're trying to not have one for a bit. And she just explained it like that. But then I was like, what happens afterwards? Like what happens afterwards? Does all of that just food noise in her time just come back? And I'm assuming it does.
Yeah, I guess maybe. I don't know. I don't know. What I do know is some of the gents that I've worked with that have been on GLPs, we've done we've done the behaviour change work and looked at all sorts of other stuff because it isn't just fitness stuff that we do, but like, and then they titrate off and they're okay. So, but I'm sure there are some individuals which, like they've said, it's like almost like a switch with the noise. Now, whether that comes back and you can manage it, or you're at a better baseline, and so although it's still there, you can. I don't know. Is the answer. What I do think is I think they shouldn't be demonised, and if you get these PTs that are anti it, they're probably people that have never struggled with those problems in the first place.
I think most of the industry's learning that's just a bad play. Like a lot of people were just sitting there going, "How stupid is this?" And there's a guy called Josh who has a UK PTs, and he released a course about how to use GLPs. and someone, number one, he sold a lot. And someone came in and started having a go at him about doing this, like how unethical it was. And Josh was just like, mate, f off.
Why?
What are you talking
Yeah.
about? Because this guy's like, you're so far behind the curve. Like, you might find it easy, but, you know, and even not just find it easy to change your behaviors and beliefs and identity around fitness, about anything that you're trying to change. Like, this guy must have just had no fucking clue whatsoever.
No, totally. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm all for them. I think they're great. I think they can help people, and like anything, like anything. There's good use cases and bad use cases, but I think used sensibly in the right context, I think crack on. They can only help.
What coach? If I was like coming into your program, then like, what would I be coached on?
Yeah, so I call myself a performance coach. I'm actually working with someone right now to sort of refine a bit more of the messaging and what we'll call it. Life coaching, you know. So,
Links to
habit coaching.
A spiritual guru and thought leader.
Yeah. That. Yeah, no, definitely not that. I think it's part of it's helping build healthy habits and behaviours, and be that what goes in your mouth, be that how you move your body, but more importantly, like setting boundaries, structure, like how you manage your technology use, how you work with other people. So I guess it's like it's habits, it's your behaviour, it's your choices, it's how you think and operate. But a lot of that and being in a good space around making better decisions, not being reactive, being resilient to what life's throwing at you, it's also predicated on how you're feeling generally. So I guess the best way I could describe it is, right, you got person A, right? He snoozes his alarm 5 times. When he wakes, then he eventually comes around, he's on his phone straight away. His missus tries to talk to him, he shouts at her because she's nipping his head. Then he goes downstairs to try and play with the kids, and he's on his phone, they're distracted, he's annoyed at them. Tries to put a shirt on that doesn't fit very well because he's a bit overweight and it stresses him out. He's a bit hungover and head's fuzzy, so he's feeling fuzzy, and he's going to do a workout which he misses. Then he's like rams a croissant in his mouth before he leaves, and he's a bit annoyed because he doesn't want to eat any crap. Just gets to the train on time, walks to the office door, right? That's person A. Person B gets up straight away when his alarm goes off, does a little bit of exercise, maybe chucks himself under a cold shower, does something for him, spent some time before everyone hits him, then he gives his wife a kiss, he's there present for his kids, has a healthy breakfast or maybe fast, but he's got control and intentionality, puts his clothes on, they fit nicely, walks out the door calmly, walks to the office. Which version is going to perform better? And it's a complete fucking no-brainer, right? But for some reason, when we're stuck in those negative feedback loops of behaviour, we don't see that, right? And you don't always necessarily recognise that those things that you are doing are impacting you. You've got often some guys have got some idea that, yeah, I want and need to change something because what I'm doing isn't working, but I can't see what or why and put, work out see the wood for the trees. And so it's a very roundabout way of answering your question, but for me, it's about helping empower guys to operate better within their lives and what's going on. And so some of that is doing some exercise, some of that is looking at what you put in your mouth, but they're just 2 small pieces of a much bigger picture and puzzle called work, life, time, family, travel, stress, relationships, clients, the list goes on.
Like journaling, meditating.
Yeah, all of that, journaling, meditation, all those things. But then also like some of the bigger things about how you interact and deal with people. Like there's a quote I love, which is unspoken expectations are premeditated resentments. And so if you're stressed and pissed off, or it feels like you got, dickheads coming at you 24/7, like there's a quote I love, which is like,
I love your
if you meet 20 cunts in a day, you're the cunt because, and you can bleep that out if you want, because like it's not everyone else, it's you. And I think when you're in that state, it can feel like everyone's coming at you, but invariably they're not. It's your perception of that. But once you dig into some of this stuff, you recognise, and I say you, the royal you're the author of your own chaos because, like, does he not know he shouldn't email me at midnight and I'm emailing back? Have you ever said you can't? Or you replied? No. Like, who's doing it? Like, and why can't my team do that? I'm just going to fucking do it for him. Well, have you ever had the conversation about the behaviour that they want and tell him that you can't and can't do that? No. Well, so it's not their fault, is it? It's your fault. And you're the one who's responsible for that. And in my experience...
How do react when you coach them around this? Do you get pushback?
To be honest, a lot of the time, like when you explain some of this stuff, you just see the penny go dink, and they're like, because I think often once it's highlighted and people see it, they kind of know it, right? And I'm not there to judge anyone. Like it's not my job to chastise anyone for how they're feeling or anything. It's more about helping them see the reality of what's going on, and like it's not saying you're not busy and stressed and all these things aren't going on, because that's all true. But like, your ability to deal with it and how you're dealing with it and the choices you're making and what you are and aren't doing, that's the bit that's on you. And more often than not, I think we can make decisions and have behaviour that we're not really aware that we're doing that's actually making things worse. And so it's just highlighting that and showing that's that. Like the unspoken
question, doesn't it? Like, or even just mirror.
Exactly. So someone go like, well, you can't do whatever it is. Like one of the things, so I get guys to do steps, right? Sounds really basic, you know. So the aim is 10,000 steps a day, and so and actually the number doesn't really matter. Again, it's more of a pattern interrupt. So, and this is where, because you said, what do I do? Like, so you could just go, well, any fitness coach will make you do 10,000 steps, and probably they can, and I can make someone do that. So what one view is, right, do 10,000 steps a day, gets to, I don't know, 9 o'clock at night, you've done 1,000 steps, you're doing laps of your living room. Fuck you, Luke, I'm getting my steps done. Great, right? What have we achieved there, though? Like, nothing. We're just brute forcing you doing something that we've sort of agreed that you need to do. So if that's happening, the next question is why? I'm too busy. Okay, why are you too busy? Oh, I've got back-to-back meetings all day. Why have you got back-to-back meetings all day? Well, I keep saying yes, and people keep filling my diary up. Okay. How many of those meetings do you have to be in? All of them. Do you? Really? Well, actually, 2 of those are completely pointless. I shouldn't have been there. Okay. So now we've just 10,000 steps and doing laps in the living room. We've asked why a couple of times, and all of a sudden there's a load of meetings that maybe don't need to happen. And so how about you empower your PA or yourself to not have those in? And I tell you what, let's do a colour code on your week, right? Green is if you're not in the meeting, right, you're going to get a P45, world's going to end, you know, that's it, you have to be there, right? Or yellow is pretty serious.
Can really I interject quickly, Luke? Are these guys not doing this?
No. So many people aren't. And I think the thing is, like, so many people are like, but it comes, this is the other thing, that's what I mean about there's no judgment. It comes from a well-intentioned place. They want to say yes. They want to empower you, the teams. Like, there's a junior that really wants to chat with the senior guys. So, yeah, of course you can have a chat. And that's well-intentioned. And from a people-pleasing perspective, which is massive, you wouldn't expect, like, you know, senior-driven guys, people-pleasing massively. Like, that's one of the biggest issues. And so you say, yeah. But in doing that, you've compromised your ability to do something else. And so this is the whole thing of you become the author of your own chaos. Like, you don't necessarily know you've done that. But then once you shine a light on that and empower someone, actually you go, well, I don't say yes to everything. And these are the types of meetings that I do need. All of a sudden, the time that we didn't have, we've got some more. Mm. And so rather than doing laps in your living room to do the steps in, I'm going to take 15 minutes in the middle of my day, which I've earmarked, so I can walk around the block and clear my head. Well, that'll empower you to be more strategic. It'll mean you don't have to do the work late that you've got to do work late. So that means when you walk through the door, you don't have to be on your phone instantly so you can be with your kids. So it all starts to sort of playing together, you know? And so I think it's helping people see that, right? And sometimes it's just, when I say permission, I don't mean I'm giving someone permission, but it's like being in a process gives one permission to go, hold up, maybe we can look at this differently. And there's not a single person I've worked with when we do that afterwards goes, oh, it's fucked me up and I've been fired. It's like, oh, my team are happy with me and I'm performing better and I feel better and actually my wife likes me more. I was like, yeah.
Like from what you were saying earlier, like when someone else hears someone else being coached through this, they're just sitting there probably nodding along and just going, well, if he's doing it, like, it's not even like if he's doing it, it's like, it's not why didn't I think of that? Because I don't think it's like, that's why I asked that question, is like, are they not doing it? I think so. I remember I had a conversation with someone who worked with us. I'm not going to say their name just because they may or may not ever listen to this, but he went out into like after working for us and went and worked for a normal company. And he was just like, man, these people, he was being kind. He was like, they've got no idea what they're like, not no idea what they're doing because they're making all this money. Like they're building a big business. It's just like, they're so unaware. Like the word that he would use to me is they're so unconscious about all of this. They've got no self-awareness whatsoever. And he's like, and I was like, well, did you expect them to? And he goes, I don't know. I've just been around people that try and understand how they think themselves, not just what they think, but how they think and how they get to that place. And he was shocked.
Yeah. And it's not like the people I work with aren't competent. They're amazing at what they do and they're super driven and they're focused. But there's key areas and interactions which trip them up. Like, so there's a CEO that I work with and do some exec coaching with, and talking about having to have difficult conversations with some of his team and some of the other people. And he was working with another coach at the time before that, and he'd be like, right, well, let's run out an example of if he says this, then I say that, and all this and all this. And I was like, what? I was like, what's the problem? I was like, well, the client was like, well, everyone thinks he's a dick. I was like, well, that's not really helpful, is it? What do you mean? He's like, well, he might be a dick, but like, how's that going to help him? And he's like, well, it's not, is it? I was like, well, so rather than second guessing what he's going to say, what is dickish about his behaviour? Well, what everyone really hates the fact that his business unit, he tries to chip in, he tries to give advice all the time and doesn't. He's been told not to, and he tries to stick his own. Okay, so there's some behaviour there that you don't like, and you've got reports from other people you don't like. It's like, yeah, I was like, so rather than don't be a dick, which helps no one, right? Or going in with that, or trying to second guess what he's going to say, so you've got this weird argument going on. Go, well, this is the behaviour that you want. This is the behaviour that he's showing. That's much easier to talk about. And then, and also this conversation, it meant that he wasn't going to get some sort of promotion as well. But then you can explain why as well. It's like, well, this is the behaviour we expect. This is why it's not. This is what's been reported. This is what we expect you to do. What do you think? Discussion. And then if you want to get to that point, this is what we expect of you. Well, that's much, much easier to talk about. It takes all the emotion out. And then my client was afterwards, he was like, mate, that conversation, oh my God. I used to think we didn't like each other and we feel really good now. I was like, yeah, because you've just broken it down into something more coherent versus trying to second guess or whatever. And look, the guy I'm talking about is incredibly successful, and he, you know, he can wipe the floor with me in all sorts of other areas. It's not that I've got knowledge in the areas that he hasn't, but it's just helping him look at things in a different way and go, how can I better approach this scenario? But then, you know, a lot of what I work with guys about, it's looking at things more holistic. So I'm never going to give this guy business advice on how to run the business he's running, because I've got no fucking idea. But it's like, can I help him in his interactions and how he's working with other people, and look at his part and the other part and meet people where they're at to get the most out of those? Well, yeah, of course I can. I had a mate the other day, I was explaining this to, he's like, you're working with the what do you tell him then? I was like, well, what I've just said to you. I can't tell him how to run his business. I've got no idea. And nor would I even feel comfortable doing that. But in helping this client I'm talking about with those areas, that same skill works at home as well, you know. Yeah. And so if you've had a good conversation and maybe some difficult stuff going off at home and people have all sorts of challenges, right? Well, if you've approached that better there, the version of you that walks through the door to your office with some spicy conversations is going to feel better. But then you can use those same things, right? You know. Does that make sense?
Make loads, yeah. I'm listening. I'm also curious about, like, I was going to ask you about some of the Stoic stuff that you like, but bridge the gap, like, then. So, like, this is the kind of work that you let it slip in there. You're like, I'll do some executive coaching, so life coaching a bit. Do you know what? I did a course and it was actually officially called it was a master's level, a third of a master, and it was called personal coaching and business coaching, or personal and business coaching. And I just think it was a way to sort of smuggle in. I think it was mostly life coaching. Like, that's really what we learned on it. Like, it was really useful for me. And so how does one go from doing this, from being a gym PT then?
Yeah, so it sort of evolved, right? So I COVID. So I was doing the check-in sort of based online PT style stuff, you know, online coach stuff. And already it started to be a bit more, some of the feedback I was giving, it's like, this isn't relating to the stuff we're going. It's about like, well, actually, you see what you've done there. It's not, the problem isn't that, it's your reaction to it. And actually, if you react like this, and actually it's not as bad as you think it is, and actually if we look at it like this. And so that was the sort of feedback that started to come. I was like, hold up, there's more going on here. But it was just me.
Had you been reading like Stoicism by that point?
Reading a bit of Stoicism, you know, a few podcasts. It was more just
than common sense.
But also just hours of doing it, and I think also in a I guess a career capacity, having conversations and working, and a lot of my job was like managing teams and people, either from a sales like an account director, account manager sort of perspective, or project director. So like working with people and working with problems and solving problems in that kind of regard. So it was like a similar sort of thing, but just applied. And to be honest, more of it just working and talking to lots of people. The thing I'd never got, and I've been in a couple of little mentorships before, was these PTs who were like angry and having to go at the clients for not having done stuff. I'm like, what? I was like, who the fuck are you? Like, I mean, okay, I can shout at someone and make them do certain things to get a result, right? But like, what's that actually fixing or solving? And I think I'd never had that, and I've been in things since.
You'd never seen that around you.
No. Like, and so there's what having been in a couple of like online mentorships, and people are like, oh yeah, this client has done the check-in, what a dickhead, she never does it. It's like, have you never asked why? And she hasn't, maybe it's because she's got 3 kids, stressed and perimenopausal, and maybe she isn't a 22-year-old that can do the fucking shit you're asking her to do, maybe, for argument's sake. And so but that's always been my kind of attitude. It's like, well, let's help the person, right? And I've got like a process, but like ultimately I want to help you. And so if something's not working, let's talk. Let's like ask the whys, not you haven't done that, you're a dick. Which
I mean, I think I bridged both. I think there was bits at the beginning where I would not like. Actually, that's probably not true. I probably would have got annoyed with people. But I know also eventually learned that it was because I was just frustrated because they weren't doing what I said. And in the end, like, because I wanted something out of that, whether it was I wanted better testimonials or them to stay on or pay me more money or get... I had a client once and he ran 2 hedge funds. And this is only looking back, and he was a really good guy. But I wanted him to get good results because I wanted to get referrals from all his big old fat hedge fund mates.
Yeah,
and that's when I became much more aware later, and I was like, that's what I got frustrated about, because I was like, I'm not going to say his name, but I was like,
don't get me wrong, like
go on,
clients still frustrate me. like we're already human, right? Things happen that are frustrating, and sometimes internally, like, God, come on, mate, pull your fucking socks up. But like, what I've realised is that isn't going to help anyone.
Yeah.
Sometimes someone needs. I think I said this to you before, Tim. I think for me, like, good coaching is like part arm around shoulder, part foot up the arse, and then bit of a mirror, and then being able to hold someone between those different states and know when to apply what and where. And it's that, there's a book called The Challenger Sale. It's kind of the same thing with coaching. It's been challenging. You're not there to be someone's mate. Oh, you got it there.
There you go.
Yeah, but you're not there to be someone's mate. You're not there to be someone's drill sergeant either. It's that there's something that's in between all of that.
So I think right as well.
Say again.
It's a bit of artistry, I think.
Yeah, totally. Because you've got to know, and I think I've gone through phases with my coaching and even the tone of my marketing where it's been a bit more aggressive and direct, and it softens and stuff. And so I think it kind of evolves with you as well, right? But to be totally transparent, like, really, the coach to me, it's just been fucking thousands of hours of doing it. I think really, like, of course, I've done loads of reading and learning. I've done mentorships with you and other things, but a lot of it is just an innate want to, like, if I've got someone in front of me, like, not in a woo, I want to help everyone, but like, someone's paying me and my job is to help this person, so what the fuck are we going to do? And let's try and get the most out of that scenario. And I'm really committed to doing that. But then in doing that, it's like, well, then ask the whys and try and work out what's going on. And so I think that's always been there, like, no matter what, like, I wanted to help. As I've got better, my practice has improved, and you get the hours, the 10,000 hours, all that sort of stuff. I think I've got better at being able to do that, just being at the coalface doing it. But it's been a kind of an evolution of that. And so...
it's been about 6 years, right? Since you started sort of coaching people in a bit more...
In this regard, I'd say so, yeah. So I think, what are we on? 2006? Sorry, 2026? Yeah, 2019, 2020, I think. Yeah, because so the transition you asked, right, was I'd just working with this little agency. It was basically 2 blokes who called themselves an agency. It was not the people you're thinking of either. It's someone else. So it wasn't Josh and Hugh, who were great, by the way. It was somebody else, and it was the Body Confident Academy thing, which you saw. That's what the business used to be called. And it was a launch. It was a launch. Yeah, it was a launch for that. And actually, that went really well. Like, did it, launched it, packaged up the coaching we talked about in a one and done. It's a 3-month package, reverses the rolling monthly. And I did my first 10 grand month at the time there, which was 6 odd years, maybe 7 years ago. It was just as COVID was about to hit, basically. And then, like, COVID hit. I'd just done this month. I was like, fuck, what do I do now? Like, and joined another mentorship, which was like a higher ticket thing. I forgot what it was called. And that was like, right, well, you basically just charge more for what you do. I was like, okay, so ramp up your prices. And I was like, well, in my head, I was like, I can't just charge more for just doing what I'm doing. It has to be something that has to be different. So, right, well, rather than doing the check-in, do a call like this. I was like, all right, I'm cool to do that. And so did like a 20-minute check-in call, it would have been, versus that. Sold a couple of those, and I went, okay, and then did some ads, which wasn't great and targeted because I didn't really know who my niche was. Did quite well there. I did another decent month, but I felt a bit burnt out. That was very much the model of the old school model now, which has almost become a bit of an industry joke, which is you just message absolutely everyone that has anything to do with you continuously. It's just like message, that was it. So it's really labour intensive. but I'd not been exposed to that, and at the time it was kind of the new thing. I think it felt like, and so actually, all of a sudden I jumped up loads more business organically from just doing this. Oh, great! And so that went quite well. Felt a bit burnt out, and that's when I came across you guys in the IFBC. Danny Wilson, he won't mind me. Shout out to Danny, legend. He won't mind me saying he'd been working with you for a bit. I'm in this new program. It's a bit different, and it's about like helping with the coaching alongside the marketing. And I was like, oh, this sounds pretty cool. Had a chat with you, saw a few of your bits, and was like, yeah, right, crack on. I mean, I was a tricky sell. I think we had about 3 calls before I actually signed up. I was the sort of person that would really annoy me these days. But then we decided to sign up, did it, and like I got with yours, I wasn't that diligent with a lot of the program stuff, but like the actual coaching and me being coached, because at the same time I went on a bit of a journey. I just
coached you.
It was you at first. It was you, and then eventually Ali as well, as it evolved into that. But initially, it was you. But I'd also started doing therapy at the same time.
Yeah, I remember we talked about that on the sales call.
Yeah, and so that was a big thing for me, because I'd been like, oh no, I'm absolutely fine, nothing bothers me, and so I was kind of on a journey of self-development for myself, kind of at the same time, and that was massively eye-opening. Plus the work we did with you, because although it was business, a lot of your coaching wasn't really business stuff. We talked about all sorts of stuff. And so kind of I went on my own journey of self-development during that process, but at the same time, the business was evolving and changing, and made it more robust, put more structure around what I was doing and delivering. And like we said through the program, I think you said this on my podcast, Tim, and some of the guys you work with, was like, some of the stuff you were recommending is like, I'm already doing that, but there just isn't a system around it. Like a lot of it was, I do that, but I didn't know I was doing. Do you see what I mean? I didn't know I was doing a thing that's got like that was packaged, and so. That went really well, and as you know, it was during COVID. Like we tweaked and refined my marketing relatively soon after coming in. We had a spitball on a group call. It's like, well, I was umming and ahhing, do you want to work with guys? Do you want to work with ladies? I've historically worked with more ladies, but really I'm probably more aligned with guys. And actually, my content could be a bit more punchy. So we made the decision. On the call, we came up with the 1%, didn't we? And sort of rolled with that, and that went really well. So I. That then was one-to-one coaching, so it was like selling a package, like a 3-month package of one-to-one.
Did you enjoy that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did, and I still do some one-to-one coaching now. I really liked it, and especially because like straight away it was not just a 20-minute call; it was a 1-hour call. It was detailed, it was in depth, and like there was still more of a fitness flavour to it than the other stuff, but actually. At first, but very quickly it started to evolve into more of what I do now.
I think that sometimes that happens. Like if you see some of the guys that are around the same time, like it ends up being a little bit of a transition. Not everyone, because like Gavin's, his leads with weight loss, and he's fucking good at it. Like, and I think I was talking to someone about this the other day. Yours is like that's a sort of side effect. Like it will happen, but it's not the thing. Whereas when Gavin's it is the thing. Although the side effect, he does also talk about like you need to change identity, otherwise this is going to all come back on. But then I think a lot of people, that's not true. There are selected people, because I think there's people that must have come into our program. I remember Ali said, she was like, "What the fuck is this?" She was like, "What are they talking about?" This was the first call she got on. Yeah. And then she was like, "I don't know what the fuck's going on." She told me this later, obviously. Yeah. I reckon there must be people that came into some of those calls and were like, what's being talked about? I wasn't expecting this. And I think that's the case. Then some people might have just been like, yeah, this isn't my thing. I much prefer like just getting into the nitty gritty of like the fitness stuff. But then obviously other people sort of, I don't know, they found some stuff that they're really interested in. And guys like you are ended up like, straddling into another industry. Like I think it does happen with some people. Like I think Harry kind of does performance stuff as well. And there's a few other guys.
Yeah, and maybe it's my own bias. I'd always been a bit like, it sounds really harsh, but like the PT stuff can feel a bit basic. Like, and so it's really helpful and powerful, right, to help people get fitter and healthier. But like, I was like, I reckon I've got more to offer than helping someone just get a bit fitter. I feel like I can help someone more with that. And like I said before, if you want to feel and operate your best, you have to take care of yourself physically. But the more people I spoke to, is like that is just a part of it. Right. And even if that was their only focus, their inability to do that is because everything else is fucked anyway. So you need to look at things holistically in order to do what you want. And I kind of have now, like, massive generalisation. There's kind of two brushes. There are some guys who are still like, I'm overweight, I'm unhealthy, and it's very much the health bit that I want to. And it could be being overweight, and like, I'm aware that everything else is on fire and I'm not balanced and everything. And yes, I want to sort that, but actually, if I'm just not fat and overweight, everything will be better. And these other guys were like, don't care about my weight. It's not nothing to do with myself physically. I've got to sort my heads out, get a better balance. I'm overwhelmed at work. Both of those sets are kind of like halfway through. They come to the middle and go, oh, the one we had this chat yesterday on the group call. Like, one of them was like, I didn't think I cared about my weight stuff and being fitter, but actually it feels really fucking good. And like, I still want to sort out the other stuff, but actually, I was like, yeah, it does. It's important. And then you get others who are like, well, I thought it was just about my weight, but actually now I'm a bit happy at home and I'm managing my work life better. I feel better. So it's kind of both, right? But I guess being able to distill that into something that people get and understand, that's also an evolution as well in terms of a marketing perspective and what people want and need. But then the one-to-one coaching went really well, built up, and I think COVID massively helped that, right? Because people had money to spend, they were at home, and so I did very well coming into coming in and coming out of the program, and then we got to a point where we were chatting, I was like, well, how do we grow and evolve this? And you said you need to say again.
Did you have a dip income-wise, if you don't mind me asking?
What, in after COVID?
Yeah.
Or not really? No. My like income-wise, it's been pretty steady and consistent. Like, it's I've not had a hockey stick. Like, I mean, I definitely did have a hockey stick moment. Like during COVID, it was like, woof, I was like, oh, this is considerably more than before. But then since then, it's just been a steady, slow tick. I'm wanting to improve that, but it's been steady. So no, fortunately, I didn't. But I think also coming out of COVID, I'd really started to refine my marketing and my niche, I think, and so that really helped. Because before it was a bit wishy-washy and never really known, but like now I can say with real clear conviction who I work with and who they are, and I think if you look and read my content, it's clear who I'm talking to, and that helps. So having said that, the start of this year has been pretty quiet, but that happens sometimes. But that's just part of business. But yeah, so the one-to-one part kind of evolved. Got quite busy and got to a point where like I'm kind of a bit too busy to do anymore. And then when we spoke, we need to do the group thing, and so what I thought, I was like, well, what are the most common themes I speak to people, and what am I doing on basically the start of every call and the start of the calls, and from the habits and goal setting piece, but the behaviours. And so we've got a syllabus of stuff that people can follow. Then there's the coaching on top, and so I just mapped that out, and that's what I called the blueprint, and that's what I've still got now. And so it's like 3 things a week. One's around exercise, one's around nutrition, one's around mindset, and I call it mindset ownership. And that just builds incrementally. Every other week, I have like a deeper sort of thinking coaching module that I call it, to sort of think about things, bigger picture stuff, schedules every week. And that's the first 2 months of the program. 8 weeks is called the blueprint. It was initially 12, and I reduced it to 2. And that's the sort of the front end thing that everyone goes through now. And then there's group coaching calls that facilitate the change off the back of that. And that's been like the engine of the business growth, literally since whenever that was, 2021. And at first it was like group was in its infancy growing, and then there was still a lot of one-to-one, and it's completely pivoted where now like it's 85% of the business is the group thing, and there's a little bit of one-to-one happens both as part of the group, and some guys will come through the group and go, actually, it's been great, but I want to do some specific stuff. And this group's amazing, but sometimes there's certain work you want to do that is better in a one-to-one environment, and that's fine. But it's more like that's off the back of being in the groups versus leading with the one-to-one stuff. And looping back to what we were saying at the start, I find for most people it's the most powerful way to do it, especially for the behaviour change stuff. Like if you want to take someone who's overwhelmed, got lots going on, like wants to be fitter and healthier, wants to be more present, wants to set better boundaries, all the stuff we're talking about, if you throw that person into an environment with other people who are in exactly the same situation, it literally just the level of accountability, but then insight that they get, it's massive. And I think I said this to you on the call that we had the other day. Like I might be working with someone one-to-one, and that what might take me even like 3 or 4 weeks, even a couple of months, and it's a bit stop-starty. you put someone in a group and they've done it in 2 weeks, like because
I mean,
there
sometimes
is
I know it's not the same thing, but I see Gavin share some screenshots, and it's like these guys are doing like 20,000 steps. I'm like, how? I was like, how the fuck do they do? And then I was like, I know how they do it. Put them in a group of men that are competitive and just let them fucking fight it out. Like you do that now. I was like, if those people weren't in that situation, they'd be arguing about why they couldn't do this shit, all that stuff. But like, I see a couple of them like I can't do 20,000 steps in a day. Like, what the hell? How are these guys must be on fucking treadmill all day?
But then also some of the things that I want to really work on, which is like setting a better boundary, putting your phone down, maybe saying no to meetings. So, oh, people just don't understand me, I'm too busy. And then that might be someone, and they see a CEO just say that. Like the busiest person I ever worked with was a gent, and he was incredibly senior in the Ministry of Defence, right? Like he'd come call sometimes. I've just gone off the phone to the Home Secretary. I was like, right, anyone who says they're busier than him, you can fuck off, and he's doing it. But and it's, to be honest, although what I just said there was very direct and forceful, it's less about the accountability. It's like, well, if he can do that, like what am I doing? And so what can I do to make that happen? And the other thing for me with the coaching is it's actually, there is a syllabus, there's stuff to work on, but it's meeting someone with where they're at, right? And it might be we have to lower the bar, but lowering the bar to get them to do whatever it is you want to do and let them be consistent with that is better than doing zero or feeling like they're banging their head against a brick wall. And most of the guys I work with are typical, type A, driven, really want to push themselves. And they've got this all or nothing mentality. And so helping them go, well, actually, lower your ego a bit. Let's just do that consistently. That's better than nothing. And then they go, it's possible. And so that's where you can get this environment where like people will be like, well, I'm too busy at the start. And they'll go, I was talking bollocks. Because, just because you haven't given yourself the grace to look at things in a slightly different way. But again, being in a program to do that almost gives you permission to do it differently, right?
Yeah, for sure. Luke, I want to ask you about some personal stuff. Like, obviously, since we stopped working together, like, I'm curious about if you can talk to me about like the alcohol thing. Like, I know that at some point, like you were kind of working on it, and then I think there's been a part where you've just knocked it on the head, right?
Yeah. Well, so
there was always a little bit of a. Was it a back and forth? I don't know, because obviously at one point I know that you were being coached by other people as well. So like obviously I might hear the coaching or like that about it, and you're open as well to me. Like at one point it was like a sort of a little bit of a sort of, was it a battle? Not a battle in the sense of a struggle, but like can't I, that sort of thing. It felt.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, so I've got like a massively checkered past when it comes to booze and whatnot. So like basically. The way I describe it is like, not every time, but when I drink, like invariably I want to drink more. I don't want to stop, and like there'll be 9 times out of 10 I drink. There's no consequences. There'll be 1 time out of 10 when there are consequences, and that's not maybe it's maybe acceptable in inverted commas when you're 20, maybe 30. When you've got 3 kids running a business, like. I can't be making the poor life choices that I'm making. And so I was just like, I need to call time on this because what I've shown myself...
You don't want to stop or you can't, do you know?
Bit of both. Probably, both. I think can't is probably a better word. So it's like there's a pattern of behaviour where you go, I don't want to like wake up and having done something stupid. And I'm not going to start the night deciding I'm going to wake up having done something stupid, right? But then... you wake up and you've done something stupid and you don't know why it's happened. Well, like, there's only so many times you can do that. You go, well, how much control do I really have here? And you clearly don't, right? And so it's about a process of recognising that. And so I just got to a point a couple of years back. I was just like, I can't keep repeating that same pattern of behaviour. So ultimately, with me, I am better without it. And so that was. So yeah, it is. Yeah, because so I do like recovery and stuff as well, right? And so when there's a phrase from recovery which says. It's what is it? It's the best thing about quitting drinking is you get your feelings back. The worst thing about quitting drinking is you get your feelings back. And so, like, even though I wasn't like a daily drinker, or there's levels, I guess, to alcoholism and how much people drink, right? But like, even though it wasn't that, my mechanism was like drinks Friday, Saturday, maybe Sunday as well, and that would never get toxic. But if I went out with a mate or something, it could all end in stupid behaviour. But like. Really, if you look at that pattern of behaviour with the drinking, like, I mean, for me, it depends who you are, but like a quiet night for me just on a Friday night would be bottle of wine, couple of cocktails, similar on the Saturday, maybe some wine, whatever, with a Sunday lunch. Now, the next day, I'm not steaming hungover, but I'm a bit fuzzy. So it kind of like takes me out of being present, although I'll grind it out and do my exercise and get on with be with the kids, but I'm not fully there. And so, and if you're a bit pissed, you're not either. And so, like, you go through your week, work really hard, do that. Like, you've never really got the opportunity to sort of like really know what's going off. And it's, for me, it was like a release mechanism there. And so, you take that away, that's a way that you manage your stress and what you operate. And so like you haven't got that anymore, so you're more aware of what's going off. And so there was definitely a process of working out what you're feeling, what's going on. And then like just other things where you recognise that like the way that I think about booze compared to a quote unquote normal person is a bit different. And so it's just basically coming to terms with that.
Where does that come from? Do you know? Do you figure this out? Do you have these conversations?
Well, yeah. So I think like, well, my dad was an alcoholic, right? So there's that. So I mean, potentially something genetic in the environment you're in, but like, I'm not. It's not about blaming anyone. It just is what it is. Long-term ingrained patterns of behaviour. But like, so Kate, my wife, she can have a glass of wine in front of her, drink half of it, and leave it. Like, there is no universe that I could ever do that, right? If I have a glass of wine, I want the bottle, right? And so like, and that's not something I can, and I can hang on and not do it, like, but like, it's just the noise and the internal battle of not doing it is really, really unpleasant because all I want to do is drink the thing. And so maybe to some person that might sound weird, but to me, that's how my brain works, right? And so it's easier for me not to have the drink. There's something they say, it's that it's not the fourth drink, the fifth drink, the 10th pint, it's the first one. You don't have the first one, you don't have the problems, right? And so for me, there's times I miss it, like what I used to love was like rosé on a sunny day and like whatever, those kind of things. But like the benefit I get by not drinking outweighs what I would get from those times. And those times also, though, it's not just a nice glass of rosé because I want 3 bottles. See what I mean? So it's coming to terms with that. And so it's definitely been a learning journey, and it's an ongoing one, right? It's, if I think been getting on it since I was 13, 14, and I'm 41. So like the time I've been not drinking versus drinking is fucking tiny. So there's still work to be done, but like on balance, I'm a much better bloke without it. So
yeah, I remember when I first was reading about this, it was about it was Alcoholics Anonymous, and it said, I think they gave like 7 things or 11 things or whatever, and they said
12 steps. 12.
No, not the steps. It's to recognise, and it says, it says if you say yes to 3 of these questions, they're like, you're an alcoholic. And I was like, I was really young at the time, and I was like, oh, what the fuck do they know? And then I read the things, and one of them said that you sometimes have blackouts, and I was like, yeah, I don't ever pass out. And then it goes, a blackout is not passing out. I was like, oh. And it goes, it just means you can't remember parts of the night. And I was like every time I fucking drink, like that's every single time. Like I don't remember the last time that I had a drink and I did remember everything. Like that was for me. It was like I couldn't remember shit. Like, and I don't even remember what I was a bit of a dickhead sometimes. I mean, I haven't given up the drink, but I do things that I just know I wouldn't do if I hadn't been drinking.
Oh, 100%. And that's
it's not. And there's a couple of things that affected like relationships as well. And I'm like, look back now, and I'm like, oh, that was fucking dumb.
Yeah, and that's exactly the same for me. So if I drank and I can't remember, I've got a total blackout, which can happen, right? Nothing good's happened ever. Literally, it'll be one of the ones wake up and go, where am I? What have I done? What's happened? And it would be some ridiculous behaviour causing drama. And like I said, like you can get away with that, I think, when you're younger and got no responsibilities. Yeah. When you're, like I say, now 41, 3 kids, moved, like I can't be behaving like that. And the one thing that and what I've done, the point of it is, in recovery, what it shows you is, I've shown myself so many times I cannot control that. Because if I could, it wouldn't happen, but it did. So, and maybe once, okay. The 400th time, like how many times do you have to do it to show yourself? It's like you're burning a finger. How many times do you have to burn your finger in the fire to go, maybe I shouldn't put my finger in the fire? And it's that same concept. And I'd like a world in which I could drink sensibly. I've just shown myself enough times I can't. And so, and I guess the insidious part is, it wouldn't be every time. So I could probably go tonight, right? I'll have a couple of bits, and I probably would, right? But then it'd slowly creep up, and then very quickly there'd be one of those times when the same thing happens again. And that has been the pattern of my drinking forever. And so, like, I just come to a point where I just can't keep doing that, and so that's why I stopped.
And does these conversations happen in the program at any point? Did like people resonate with that?
Yeah, booze is a massive one for lots of people. Yeah, it's a huge one. Like, I believe most people, unlike me, can have a healthy balance around alcohol. Like, I've shown myself I can't, right? But I think that most people can. But you do get some guys come in talking like that, and I'll share my experience myself, and they get to a point where they go, you know what, like you, it's probably something I need to call time on. Most people with the booze, it's the glass of wine or two, a couple of beers at the end of the day to take the edge off. But what I would say to those people is that, and it's kind of normalised to say, oh, that's okay. But actually, if you're having to use that to take the edge off and de-stress, all it highlights is the shit elsewhere that you're not doing right. Because, like, it's more, that's the canary in the mine or the red flag, insofar as, like, now, of course, it does have impact. It impacts your sleep, makes you feel a bit knackered, maybe eat a bit of shit. So it will acutely affect how you feel. But parking all of that, if you need that, at the end of the day, take the edge off from a drug, essentially, well, maybe you need to manage your stress better and your health better and your relationships and what you're doing at work. And so let's look at all that and then see if you need to do that. And in my experience, people don't. And then, yeah, you want to have a date night with the missus, get a few beers with your mates. Of course, that's what you want booze for, not just to sort of smooth off the edges of a stressed shit life. so yeah, booze is a big one, and maybe it takes one to know one, or you just attract the right people. But yeah, alcohol is a common thing we work on.
And I had a client, and I remember this. No one knows his name, and so came in, and I was like, right, we're gonna track some calories, and like so I was like, just track all your alcohol. And guy was a big guy, and I was actually quite surprised that he was actually honest with his tracking. And I was like, and he came with the first week of tracking, and it was like 4 nights out of the week. Like, I'm not just talking like a little bit; it was a lot. Now, his reasoning in that moment was, but yeah, this week different. And I was like, and if I'd had him 10 years ago, I'd have been like, right in there trying to sort of, and I just let him go, okay. And he just said stuff to me which was just absolute bullshit. I knew it was bullshit, but I wasn't going to be like, right, this is week 2 and I'm going to try and change this, because I was like, this is going to take time. And I was really patient with it, and I just wanted to move him a tiny little bit each week. And then I noticed that he was like, oh, it's not like I'm an alcoholic. And I was like, cool, yeah, no, I get that. And I'm like, I don't have the judgment to be able to say he is or he isn't. Like, it's his choice. And there's not you don't do a test and it tells you yes you are, no you're not. It's not like you've got like a little thing that you can test for something. And then we started getting into dialogue, and he was like, oh, it turns out that he had a pub with his missus and they owned it together. And then it turns out she also drinks with him. And just this was for over 12 weeks, and I found it really eye-opening with the development of like the way I was coaching him. And just bit by bit, and then he's like, and then I was like, look, do you think we could work on this? Can you see that this might be part of why you're not losing weight? And he got to a point, he's like, because at first he was like, oh, it's nothing to do with the alcohol. 1,000 calories, like 4 times
a day. Yeah.
Like, it's nothing. Oh, okay. All right. I wasn't even going to challenge him, to be honest. I was like, okay. And then he goes, oh, maybe it is. And then he's like, oh, but I raised it with my missus, and she said, not like we're alcoholics. And I was like, now she's defensive, like, don't take my toys. And I'm like, now not only am I coaching this guy to have this realization that this is something he's probably been doing for 30 years, plus his whole fucking life is around it, and his missus now. And I was like, this is going to be hard work. Yeah. He lost a little bit of weight, and I was getting frustrated in a way, because I was like, this guy's like a bit over the week, like bit by bit. And then eventually he came and he was like, I've kind of had a realization. I was like, yeah, what's that? And he goes, it's the alcohol. That's why I can't lose weight. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, tell me about that. And I was like, in my back of my head, I was like, no shit. And I was a little bit frustrated. And like, we got to the end of the 12 weeks, and I had the conversation, and he didn't do a re-up. And it was partly because he was like, I don't think he'd seen a massive result. But he left the program with the realization that, like, I have a problem with alcohol, and this is it. And then I saw the last bit, and then I saw him on Facebook about a year later, and he looked like a fucking different dude. And I was like, what the hell happened? He goes, I lost like 60 pounds. He goes, I realised that alcohol was the problem. I was like, flipping hell. Like, I mean, he was extreme, but it's such a difficult subject, like, to broach and take away from him, I guess, in a way.
It's really hard. I guess I think what helps with me is I've got loads of previous, and I'm happy to talk about it. And I'll say, like, I've done all sorts. I am on a journey of sobriety, but I make a very clear point of saying I'm not on a pedestal. I'm not here to push sobriety on anyone. Yeah. But like, I can understand and empathise because I would class myself as an alcoholic. I'm someone who can't drink because of that, right? Like I said, there's levels to it, but that's so. I think I've got at least experience I can talk to, but telling someone something doesn't really help. Like they need to feel it and see it and experience it themselves. And so, even things like I have clients that go, I've got to do client entertainment, and I've got to go out and get a drink all the time. I was like, okay, do you? I'm like, I said, well, so let's say you tried tonight, just didn't have a drink, right? You're going to get a P45 tomorrow? No. Will that lose you the deal? No. Try it once. See how I feel. And then this is another call on Monday, that one of the collective calls. I was like, so I went to this thing, and he's a big confrontation around alcohol. He's recognised he needs to stop for a bit because he's got issues in his relationship, and like he thinks the relationship's wrong. I was like, well, maybe some of your behaviour around alcohol and what that's doing and the negative externality, maybe that could be causing some of it. He's like, maybe. Why not drink for a couple of weeks and just see? He's like, okay. Anyway, so he's on this journey, and he's like, well, I had this client thing, and he was like, spoke to the client. He's like, look, mate, just to set the scene, I'm not going to drink it today because I'm being a bit healthier, and that's it. And the guy was like, thank fuck for that. I thought this was going to be another session because we always get battered. I didn't want to drink anyway. So I was like, what does that I mean, so what does it show you? Like, we have all these preconceived expectations, unspoken expectations, premeditated resentments. You actually just communicate what you want and need and just say, and a lot of the time it's not true. And so I guess I think a lot of it it's like, yeah, you said it, it's a big thing and people use it as a crutch and there's all sorts there. But it's just helping people like I said, that get your foot in the door. Like, well, what could you try? Could you try not drinking tonight? Just see what's going to happen. Okay, how do you feel in the morning? Oh, I felt really fresh. Well, okay, so maybe we could try that again during the week. Yeah, okay. And then the guys who are maybe drinking a bit more chronically and frequently, just like the odd glass or two, you help them take that out a bit, or they try taking it out. They go, oh, it's just a habit, really. I wasn't even that bothered. And then they'll go, okay, well, I'm going to get drink on the weekend, and they'll get battered on a Saturday night. They're like, I don't want to feel shit. And so it's like, this isn't me like trying to sort of surreptitiously make them not drink, but it's like, well, now you can see and feel and experience the difference. And you go, well, so it's totally up to you. Do you want to feel like that on a Sunday? I don't really. And so but then that's them making the decision, not me saying don't drink. Because then that loops back to the whole 10,000 steps. Yeah, fuck you, Luke, I'm not drinking for this, but I can't wait till I get smashed again. Well, what are we solving or looking at? Nothing. So using it as a pattern interrupt to think about it and feel it, then you can make the decision yourself. It's not for me to tell someone how frequently they should or shouldn't be drinking. You decide. But do it from a conscious place. Yeah. And I think so. It's doing it in that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I don't drink. If I do, probably the last time I've had a hangover was 3 years ago, maybe. I don't know. Like, I don't go out. Like, and maybe when my lifestyle's slightly different, I would, when I lived in Malta, I'd be going out quite a bit more. I'd have to I dealt with my hangovers where it would be like, I would just lie in bed all day. Like, and that's fine when you're 20, but when you're like in your 40s, it's not a great one. Luckily, I don't have like family and that. So I didn't have like kids running around, but I could not have imagined that. Like, oh my God, like I actually don't think I'd have been able to do it because I just dealt with it with like how a teenager does, which is lie in bed all day, like Netflix, put your head under the cover, order a Domino's at evening.
Whereas I could do that. So I had so many times, like grinding it out, but then you spend your life like like if you're working hard all week and then you're getting battered on the weekend. And you're hungover, looking after kids and doing everything else. Like there's no off. It's just constantly. Do you know what I mean? So but again, it's helping someone see and feel that and decide that themselves. As a coach, it's not your job to tell anyone anything. I don't think really. It's help them see and look at like most people are working with you because they want to change some stuff and be better. Like it's your job to help them do that, but like ultimately it needs to be self-authored, really. Like obviously they can look to you for inspiration and others and all the rest of it, but like you want them to make the decision and get to that themselves. And the whole even the coaching experience of like what we said about it's not just me. I can say that you don't know it until you've felt it, and then some guys and the guys who are the most reticent about the group, they go in it and they go, it's the best part of the process. The only way they can get that feeling is by being in the group. Do you see what I mean? Like, and they can watch a few things, but you don't understand until you experience it. And I think that's what good coaching is. It's helping someone feel and experience it for themselves, right?
Nice. Luke, how can people find out about you? Where do they find you? What's your channels?
LinkedIn, Luke Doran, just Luke Doran on LinkedIn, or the 1% is probably the best one for me. I'm also on Instagram, which is the 1%. If you find me there, and then the podcast as well
in the show notes. Podcast as well. Is it all on YouTube?
Yeah, podcast is YouTube, Spotify, Apple, the whole kit and caboodle. So you got all the links, whatever platform you want. But if you search the 1% or the 1% and my name, Luke Doran, I'll come up and you can listen to my dulcet northern tones talking to my clients, basically.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. All right, good to chat, Luke. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Bye, man.